You are listening to the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show, and I'm your host, Richard Wray. My mission is to help entrepreneurs understand AI and use it to their advantage. Join me today where we dig deep with our guests and get you the best concepts and strategies. Today's special guest is Leanne Shelton. Leanne is a human copywriter and, for a whole 2 months, a ChatGPT trainer. Running an SEO copywriting agency that also offers training, Leanne is keen to ensure business owners are using ChatGPT effectively and efficiently to ensure quality. Today we're talking about embracing the enemy, from copywriter to ChatGPT trainer. Leanne, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Richard. Good to be here.
Great to have you here. So the question I always like to ask my guests straight away is, whereabouts in the world are you, Leanne?
I'm in Sydney, Australia.
Fantastic. I know it well. Okay. Well, look, Leanne, you're a really great example of someone with a great traditional skill set who is embracing AI. But first, let's baseline this and tell us about the role of a human copywriter, or just a copywriter as opposed to a human copywriter.
Yeah, the human part's just come recently because I just added humor to it. But yeah, so what myself and my team do are predominantly for the digital space. So we write website copy, blog articles, sales landing pages, email marketing, and then the odd brochure for those that do want to go old school. And it's all about, I feel like it's a really undervalued service anyway, and then you throw in tools, free tools like ChatGPT, and it becomes even more undervalued, unfortunately. But the thing is, people are always willing to invest a lot of money in website design, but completely skimp out when it comes to the content, and that's ultimately what's going to convert their clients. So we're all about finding the right words. Like our little tagline is turning your rough ramblings to meaningful messages, because quite often there's often a disconnect between the words that you want to say and then typing them out. So that's where we come in. We can just kind of pick your brain. I do interviews via like Zoom, briefings, transcribe. Then we literally use your words and then just structure it, make it all SEO friendly. So it means search engine optimization, can come from Google, and make it sound good and unique.
So it's not just a case of good grammar and good spelling. There's actually a degree of psychology for the target market that you have to take into account.
100%. And so really it comes down to knowing the pain points of your target audience and then speaking to those with your solutions. And so many people, like in the online space, it's all like, we do this, we do that. But really everyone, they only care about themselves. So it's like, what's in it for me? And so many people forget that, and their copy's just like, we do that, and rather than painting the picture of, I'll have hypothetical questions. Have you ever felt like this and you're stressed out with that? Well, we can help. And that's where people feel heard and they're more likely to pay attention.
And I assume as well, with my experience of copywriting, getting the voice of the customer, your customer, to flow through the text, to actually feel like they're saying it in the right tone.
Yeah, and that consistency is really important with, especially if they're a micro business owner and they are their own brand. Like I'm big in the networking space, and I get the feedback that, I speak how I write. So you get that consistency, because otherwise, people only buy from those that have that know, like, trust factor after following them multiple touch points. I think it's up to like 14 touch points now or something before someone buys from you. So you need to make sure you're consistent, because if they're getting one message online, for example, and they meet you face to face and there's that disconnect, you're not who they thought you were, it's going to the whole trust thing is just going to like drop. So it's very important to keep that consistent.
And how is ChatGPT and some of the other tools that are getting out there, how is that disrupting your industry?
So yeah, how I touched upon it before, everyone's like, oh, look, here's this free tool. I can just ask it to do stuff and it'll write halfway decent content. And that's the thing. My conversions definitely dropped this year, and I know it's been the same way for a lot of copywriters. And I basically just came to the realization, well, I can either just sit and rock in a corner and go, all right, that's the end of my career. What do I do now? Or I really tap into the second arm of my business, the content marketing training, which used to be about all different things, like from webinars to podcasting to LinkedIn and blogging. And I thought, well, let's actually make it all focus on ChatGPT, That's what everyone's using. And it just very quickly, I got very frustrated when I see people using it incorrectly and then thinking, oh, I just typed this in, it gave me great stuff. I won't even look at it, skimmed it, looked fine. I'm going to put it out in the world, because I can see that affecting a lot of people's brands if they're not revisiting it properly, not adding their own personal take. And I personally am already becoming savvy to ChatGPT content. I can read it and recognize it. And if everyone else starts doing that too, you're going to lose that trust really, really
There's
quickly.
going to be that vanilla flavor to every piece of copy that you'll see out there, yeah?
Yeah, it's very surface level unless you know how to really put those prompts in, right? The follow-up prompts. But that means putting effort in. And I think that's what a lot of people think. It's like, cool, saves all this time, no effort involved. But actually, if you want it to be really great quality and sound like you do need to either, one, put in those further prompts to get it sounding better, or manually edit it after you get that first draft.
So it sounds like there's almost 3 levels here. There is something that maybe they would have written. At the top end of the scale, there's something that is lovingly handcrafted by you and your team. And then there's something that would have sat in the middle, or does sit in the middle, which is ChatGPT, for the sake of argument, which sounds better than they can produce. And they go, wow, this looks amazing. I could never have written that. And it's taken seconds. And, when I've written scripts before, having to scrape out every last part of that script for me can be challenging, as opposed to writing script, poof, out comes ChatGPT. But you still have to refine it to give it that true personality.
Yeah, and it all comes down to those writing prompts. And if you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know what a good blog article looks like in terms of structure, or same with a web page, then it won't necessarily give that to you. And also, this is where knowing your tone of voice is really key, because I've experimented with this. You can put the exact same prompt in and have the word professional, and then you put the exact same prompt with the words conversational and bubbly, for example, completely different content. The essence is there, same kind of essence, but this is where knowing your tone of voice, and then obviously knowing your audience and putting that in, knowing the structure. So you just got to know all these elements to put in, and then be able to recognize, oh, there's repetition there. And it's very clever. Like you'll put 2 paragraphs one after the other, and you think it sounds really good, but ultimately it's just reworded itself. Or there's Americanized spelling. For those based in Australia, we spell things, a different way. So you need to get rid of those Z's and fix that up. And it's just going to lack depth. So you have to add your own stories, your own examples from your real life scenarios with clients, or your own product, or whatever it is, just to add that whole other level. But yeah, if you don't know, like you just get that first draft, cool, ChatGPT gave me that was awesome, out it goes. And not thinking about the psychology behind it, not thinking about the structure, and that quality.
So how do you train people? What is it you do when you are showing people how to use this? What is the first thing that you teach them?
So definitely, like as I just mentioned, like the tone of voice in the audience, knowing that. And there is a cool little trick I've learned. If you don't know what your tone of voice is, like I thought, oh, conversational, bubbly, I think that's mine. Put it in, the content sounded pretty much like me. Like, cool, that's my tone. But there's actually a little exercise you can do, and you can put like 3 pieces of your own content you've written into ChatGPT, and you'll give it like a writing prompt. I'm about to insert 3 pieces of content written by myself. After each one, say, thank you, please proceed, and I'll add another one. And by the end of it, I'd like you to assess what my tone of voice is. And so you can actually insert it, and then it will review it, and then it provides you with, in dot points, your tone of voice, your structure, and your brand kind of voice. So that's a cool little trick. And then, all right, everything I now write from here onwards in ChatGPT, I'll insert that tone of voice. So it's always going to be consistent. I also teach things like looking out for that repetition, and also being aware of sensitivity. So if you're in a particular industry, say mental health, you need to make sure certain words aren't used. So you might need to insert that into the prompt, avoid words like this, this, this. And also what it can't do for you is putting, at the moment anyway, like resources like links and things.
Mhm.
You can use Google Bard, for example, which can access real-time content, but ChatGPT is currently from September 2021, so it can't give you real-time access. It's all just whatever's
Mhm.
been put into the system. So just teaching people these things, like getting the prompts right, knowing how to edit it, what to look out for. I've been doing some one-on-ones, I've been doing some webinars and some face-to-face workshops, and just some of the questions that are coming up, and a lot of it's just basic copywriting 101
Mhm.
that people, because something like the world's become copywriters, but they have no idea what they're doing. So a lot of my trainings are actually, I've already run them as a copywriter, and now I'm just slapping, the ChatGPT lens on it, and they're all going, oh, okay, this will make sense. So that's kind of how I'm doing it.
That's great. So it sounds like you don't just help the users tune those initial inputs, and then you help them define that tone of voice, and you make sure that certain phrases aren't used. I mean, there'll be certain words that say would mean one thing in America that would mean something completely in, say, the UK or Australia. So there's certain phrases you have to avoid, or at least use them in a different way. So that's an easy thing to do, and you can see that in multiple languages around the world. There has to be variations of Spanish and different versions of Mandarin Chinese, depending on whether, say, you're in mainland China or Singapore, for instance. With lots of variations like that. How much of it is getting the user to actually embrace this technology and not be afraid of it? How much of that are you working on as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who've never even touched it when I've gone to these trainings, or they've
Mm-hmm.
done it, and just, I mean, because it's obviously very brand new, just suddenly this came into our world, and
Mm-hmm.
then you've got so much information out there, all these spin-off tools, AI tools are all
Mm-hmm.
being spat at us, right? So I'm trying to stick to ChatGPT, and then I
Mm-hmm.
occasionally mention Google Bard because that will start to evolve more as well. It's just this sense of overwhelm a lot of people have. And this is where I decided, a couple of months ago, I was at a networking group's Make It Happen session,
Mm-hmm.
reassessing the next quarter. And I asked people in the room, like, would you be interested in training in this space? And everyone basically said, yes, please. I have no idea where to begin, or if it's
Mm-hmm.
capabilities. And as the tech evolves, it's gonna have more capabilities. But I figured, let me be that person to collect all the data. I've always loved futuristic stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm like, cool. Well, and all this information is just sticking in my brain, which
Yep.
for someone who's ADHD, I know that means actually I'm interested in it, and it could pay off long term. So I'm like, let me be the person who collates the information. Then I can be your one source to train it to you. So my little webinars and things will turn into mini courses as well that people can
Mm-hmm.
just download at any time. And then as things evolve, I can do updates, and just people feel like, a lot less overwhelmed, feel like they can tackle it and work out how it's relevant to them and their business.
So it sounds like you're using a lot of the skills you use as a copywriter to understand the tone of voice and to get the right tone of voice from the customer when you would write something, to then imbue ChatGPT with the correct tone of voice going forward. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so some of the things that I'm playing around with it as well. For example, I do my briefings via Zoom and get
Mm-hmm.
transcripts. I've now experimented with putting those transcripts into ChatGPT to create the content,
Okay.
and 80% there. But then again, I know what I'm looking out for. I know then how to tweak it, what it needs. If you have no idea, you can do that and actually stuff it up quite
Mm-hmm.
significantly. There's little things that I've had conversations with other copywriters, and I think it just means that copywriters, yes, look, there'll be people out there, big organizations won't want to touch AI, like, no, because it's
Mm-hmm.
all plagiarism, issues as well, right?
Yeah.
Copyright issues. So they won't want to touch it, just pure original content. But I think what a lot of copywriters will need to do is become more of the advisor and trainer and editor for this new world we're now found ourselves in.
Mm-hmm.
Use this skill set, go, all right, yes, sure, have a crack at it first, but then please bring me in to edit it if you want the quality there. And I think as people realize there is a bit more work involved rather than just spitting a 5-word prompt and out it comes, they will then realize how valuable we are. And I bring this example as well, Canva, that did not completely eradicate all graphic designers out
No.
there. Many graphic designers embrace Canva and use it as templates, and yeah, and give it out. So, but people, I'm okay at Canva. And there's some people though who just aren't designers, don't have a visual
Mm-hmm.
at all, and just stuff it up even more. So it'll be the same sort of thing, I reckon, with ChatGPT.
So that's really interesting, because what I'm hearing here is that the skill set isn't being, wiped out by AI. So many people go, oh no, AI is going to take my job away and there's going to be this Armageddon of jobs everywhere. But in reality, the skill sets are just as relevant. You just have to use them in a different way.
100%.
And one of the things that I've noticed as well is that, especially around, using something like ChatGPT, and there's the term that I absolutely love, which is the prompt engineer. And that's obviously not an engineer that turns up on time. That's somebody who helps you write the prompts. The One of the things I've noticed is that obviously the better your written skills are, the better you are at structuring grammar and punctuation, the better the prompts and the better the results are. And so, and bizarrely, older demographics seem to be a little better at that in many cases that I notice. So, traditionally, new technologies, older demographics gone, oh my goodness, this is going to be a problem. In actual fact, this is something that they can embrace and really make use of. It's almost like a bit of a fountain of youth in some ways.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying to other copywriters. I'm even putting together some training for interior designers, and
Mm-hmm.
the concept's exactly the same with their design AI stuff, which, whole other world. But the whole message is here, all right, yes, you may lose customers, who just, I just want to use this free thing or very low cost thing. Cool, let them do it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can actually increase your profit margin by using these tools yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, just, I'm talking about that transcript thing for a website client. I decided to not hand it over to a subcontractor. So I kept a percentage of my money there to experiment with it.
Yeah.
And then it took me probably a fraction of the time it would have in the past to do it. And then I just kept the $3,000 myself.
Yeah.
So, and there was minimal edits, by the way. The client was very happy with it. It did take a couple of prompts actually to make sure ChatGPT used only the transcript. It did want to keep going externally, but I said, have you used, I treat it like a child, have you used only the transcript and use exact phrases? No, I did not. Apologies. But then it did, and then it was almost there. I just had to make some tweaks. So that then meant, in terms of how long it took versus the output, great profit. So this is where, don't be, I'm saying other copywriters as well, don't be afraid to use it. Don't see ChatGPT as the enemy. Embrace it, because it can be, how to use it properly. So use it, and look, you can be fully transparent. You can say to your clients, I will use, and I recommend this. I'll probably use ChatGPT, but don't worry, I know how to work it properly. And I know how to make your content original, and all these kind of things to assure them. But I do think you need to have some sort of disclaimer that ChatGPT could be used, or similar tools. Because we don't want to lose that trust factor again, right? When they find out that you did use it.
And have you seen any specific groups really embrace it, or any shun it in a big way? I mean, what's been your experience so far?
I think there's been definitely a lot of copywriters been like, oh yeah, it's just so bad, and it's not quality, and all these ranty posts on social media that still work with a copywriter. And look, I even admit, I've just finished a blog article in response to a Facebook group, and someone said, I want help with my about page. And 3 people said, or 4 people said, use ChatGPT. And I'm like, it's an about page though. And I started writing this ranty blog, but then I realized, hang on, you can actually use ChatGPT to help you with it. It cannot read your mind, but if you know how to prompt it, you can ask for questions to help you come up with the content. And then if you need to go a step further, you create that transcript and insert that into ChatGPT to help you. But once again, you need to know what to do with that content and know, So I even started a bit ranty. I caught myself going, hang on, no. It was more just the throwaway comment, use ChatGPT, that actually irritated me, because it's just sent without any thought, and it actually needs a lot more work to make it work for you.
It's almost like people say, oh, how do I do this? Oh, Google it. That's not an answer.
Yes, exactly.
It's a very frustrating answer if people do give that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very much the case. So it does sound to me then that there's hope for traditional skills. There's hope for people who are, good with these sorts of skills. In fact, if anything, it sounds like they're going to be more important than they have been in a long time.
I think so. Because it's suddenly made copywriting a lot more accessible to people. They're hanging out in the writing space more, so they're gonna go to the experts. All right, how do I clean this up? Or I don't know what I don't know. Could this be better? And then bring us in to say, all right, well, here are some tips. Have you thought about your audience more? You're all about you here. Let's fix up those prompts. Yeah.
And do you think people, when they're using ChatGPT and they've, say, gone through the style of training that you're giving them and you taught them how to use these techniques, almost by osmosis, when they see the copy and they see, better grammar, better punctuation in their own lives, they'll be better at just, writing their own emails, and their grammar and punctuation could improve?
Possibly, or they could get lazier and just...
That is the flip side, yes. Just let
This is the thing too, right? So, the whole, the school education system's a whole other topic, right? But there could just be people go, oh, I can't, how do I respond to this email? I'll put it in. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. It may not actually help improve their skills unless they are going in and editing it, if they're taking the time. And then if they go study, these kinds of trainings that you'll probably see more and more of how to do it properly. I do, yeah. I know that my strong writing skills is a rare find for so many. Like, this is why I knew this would be a good occupation for me. I don't know. I don't know if it's actually going to improve people's skills unless they actively try to improve, or they just take the easy way out.
The flip side, I suppose, is that it allows them to focus on the idea as opposed to areas that they're not very strong on.
Yes, correct.
That's very interesting. Okay, well, in amongst all this, what would you say is that one piece of advice? If you're going to reach out and say, anybody that's listening today, what's the one thing that they must do with this style of technology, regardless whether it's ChatGPT or any of the others that are out there?
I think, keep an open mind. Don't just accept the first draft. Don't accept what it just spits out at you. Please take the time to review it properly. Don't just skim read, because this is where you miss repetition, you miss misspellings, make sure you're taking the time to review it. Think, does it actually sound like me, for that consistency? And if not, what can I do to change the prompt? What can I follow up with? How can I edit it? So pretty much just don't accept the first version ever.
Makes complete sense. So, Leanne, where can people find you, and what big events or projects have you got coming up that people should know about?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active there, Leanne Shelton. Instagram, Leanne Shelton 247. My business is Right Time Marketing, so WRITE, timemarketing.com.au, and there's a training section. You can go have a look. I've got a series of webinars and workshops, so face-to-face and online, and I do one-on-ones as well if you want that personalized touch. So feel free to reach out to me, and there'll be more exciting stuff on its way. So watch this space.
Exciting times. Well, Leanne, thank you for your time today. It's great to see somebody embracing technology, but also making use of the traditional skills that they've got and combining them in a really fruitful way.
Yeah, thanks, Richard.
Well, that's a wrap on another awesome guest episode for the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show. Just before we go, if you like this episode, we would be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending this show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at aiadvantage.show right now. Until next time, I'm Richard Wray, and if you're an entrepreneur, get the AI Advantage today.